Okay, I'm detailing a Honda Civic today, and this particular car is one that the owner wants to sell, so I'm actually going to do the engine compartment. A lot of people that get their cars detailed don't have any interest in having the engine compartment detailed, but this one does. And you can see this engine is actually pretty dirty. Car has a little over 100,000 miles on it. I doubt it's ever been cleaned, and it's not going to come out perfect. The whole intent of detailing the engine is to at least relay to the new owner that you've taken some care of the car when you haven't completely neglected it. So I'm going to go ahead and knock this out pretty quickly. I'm not going to worry about getting a hose out, spraying it down. I generally work 100% out of my garage. I don't even take cars outside to wash them. I wash them inside. So I'm going to spray this down, wipe it by hand, maybe use a few brushes, and then we'll be set. Okay, I got all the leaves out. I'm going to go ahead and spray this down. You want to get it, you know, pretty wet with the product. I don't cover any wires. You know, be careful around the alternator, be careful around the battery. Probably don't need to spray those much, because by the time you get to them, your rag will be coated with product, and whatever's on the rag will be sufficient for cleaning up the battery. But as soon as the product starts to hit the engine bay, it will start to break down the grease, and grime, and this, you know, a lot of this is just surface dirt. People go crazy on engines. It's literally that. It's surface dirt. The engine's not leaking anywhere. Be careful around the battery again. I wasn't going to spray it, but I changed my mind. You can let it sit for a few minutes. Depends on the engine. If the engine's hot, the product's going to start to dry. So you might want to get started right away. But look, this is a process that requires patience. There's really no shortcuts here. If you want to do it right, then just take your time, go over every surface with the microfiber towel, and if you have hard to reach areas, just use the brush. You can use any brush. And after we're all done, I'm actually going to spray it down with McGuire's hyper dressing, and usually spray it and then I leave it. I don't wipe the hyper dressing off for a while. So what I'll do is spray it, shut down the engine, shut down the hood rather, and then I'll begin to detail the car, and I'll leave the hyper dressing to soak into all the plastic components. And that's the best way I found. I used to spray it on and wipe it off right away, but I was watching one day Obsessive Garage's channel. If you guys haven't seen that, it's Obsessive Garage. It's very simple. And he typically will just spray the engine down with the hyper dressing, and then he'll just leave it all together. I'll actually spray it down, leave it for a couple hours, and then I'll come back and wipe it up. Now you're going to have to reapply the cleaner. Depending on how it's going, you might have to respray it. This particular engine is fairly hot, so the product is flashing quite quickly. After you're all done cleaning it, it should be pretty much everything inside the compartment should be dull. And that's where the hyper dressing will come in. It'll shine things up, and you'll be all set. If it's your personal car and you want to keep the engine absolutely perfect, what I would suggest is you either, from day one, keep on top of it, or do a thorough cleaning initially, and then every month or so, or every oil change, go ahead and wipe it down. So this is really all it is. It's not you don't have to really know much. You just have to be patient and thorough. And this will go a long way in the selling of the car. A lot of people, when they're buying a car, one of the first things they do, whether they care or not, is they're going to open up the hood, they're going to look around the engine for leaks, and when they see a clean engine, it just goes a long way of saying to the owner, the new owner, that we took care of it. So I'm going to just keep going through this. Again, you can use the brush if you want. Just go ahead and brush in those areas. Be careful around the electrical connectors. No need to use a pressure washer. I'm going to go ahead and spray this down again, wipe it down again, and then bring you in when I'm using the hyper dressing. Okay, I went through it again. I sprayed it down with the degreaser. I brushed it. I wiped it down. Some things to watch out for or to pay attention to: the windshield washer, the power steering, the oil filler. Make sure the caps are really clean. They stand out when they're clean. Radiator cover, which is over here, the battery in the back, the brake booster. Just make sure all those covers are clean. This engine in itself is actually pretty ugly. It's not it wasn't designed to be a nice looking engine. Some engines, you know, that you'll find in a GT350 or a sports car, they usually look beautiful and they have engine covers on top covering everything. Well, this one doesn't. So there's only so much you're going to get out of it. But go ahead, brush it, wipe it. And then I'm going to use hyper dressing, Meguiar's hyper dressing. I just put it in a spray bottle and I use it full strength. I'm going to spray the whole compartment, and then I'm just going to shut the hood, and I'll leave it for a few hours, and then when I'm ready to clean it off, I'll bring you back in and show you what it looks like. But for now, just go ahead and spray it down, and don't worry too much about getting it in various places. Again, don't coat the alternator or anything. The alternator doesn't need to be coated. The metal components aren't really going to benefit much from it. It's really all the black plastics, the hoses. This sprayer's acting like an idiot. But just spray it down like that. Nothing's going to short out. One thing that's pretty cool about the Meguiar's hyper dressing, if you've ever used it before, if you haven't used it before, it's got a little bit of a cleaning feature to it. So when I come back later and wipe all this off, it'll actually do a fair amount to clean the engine again. So that's it. I'm gonna just leave it. Looks like crap right now. That's the purpose. And I'll come back in a couple hours and show you what it looks like. Thanks. Okay, this is what the hyper dressing looks like after sitting for a few hours, and for the most part it's as soaked in as it's going to get. So at this point you just want to take a microfiber towel and wipe over all the surfaces to get rid of any of the remaining residue, and it should leave a nice satin, satin to shiny, but not an overly shiny, Armor All kind of sticky shiny look. Just take your time, make sure you hit all the surfaces. It's going to clean a little bit more of the dirt and grime and grease off, but it's going to look pretty nice when it's done. And you want to do this before you, if you're doing a full detail, you want to do this before you polish the paint, because what's going to happen is, as you go around these edges, your microfiber towel is going to hit the edge of the paint, and if you polish the car, then you've got to go back and do some cleanup. So it's best to do the engine. I would do it first, then do the interior of the car, and then while the hyper dressing is drying, and then you can come back and wipe it down. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe this whole thing down and then show you what it looks like. Alright, I apologize for all the noise in the background. It is raining like crazy out here in Florida. But anyway, that's the finished product. The only piece that looks pretty unsightly after all that is this piece of metal up here in the top. But you know, it's an engine. What are you gonna do? So that's about it. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching.